Join Boise State Public Radio for a concert with blues rock guitarist and vocalist Coco Montoya at the Treefort Music Hall in Boise, February 13th, with reserved seating. A night with Coco Montoya and his band. Find details and a link for tickets at boisestatepublicradio.org.
It's The Connector from Boise State Public Radio. Good morning. It's Thursday, February 13th. I'm Troy Oppie. This morning, bills on the move at the Idaho Statehouse include the right for medical professionals not to treat a patient based on personal or religious preference, plus an effort to repeal Medicaid expansion moved forward, as did a bill that would ban mask mandates in the state. Yeah, we're still talking about that. And the Boise School District got some good news on the mental health of its students. Those stories and lots more this morning on The Connector, Idaho Daily News from Boise State Public Radio. The Idaho House could soon take up a bill critics say would almost certainly repeal the state's Medicaid expansion plan. Voters approved that in 2018. Our James Dawson has more.
If the federal government doesn't approve 10 conditions outlined in the bill, like an enrollment cap and a lifetime benefits limit, Idaho would trash the program that offers health insurance to the working poor. Supporters say the measures are needed to rein in the state's Medicaid budget. Republican Representative Dori Healy agrees, but she says this bill gives the feds complete control over the program's future.
We're placing the lives of Idahoans in the hands of our federal government. As mentioned earlier, I've never seen so much faith placed in Washington, D.C.
Nearly everyone who testified Wednesday opposed the bill, saying it would drive up costs for the state and would lead to hundreds of premature deaths in Idaho. Mark Johnson was one of the few who supported the measure, saying the state shouldn't extend health coverage to able-bodied adults.
The reason I'm a grumpy old man, or I call myself that, is because I've worked for 45 years to date and paid my way the entire way.
The bill passed out of committee by one vote and now goes to the House floor. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
A Senate committee Wednesday signed off on a bill largely along party lines that would give $50 million in private school tuition subsidies to Idaho families. Families could apply for $5,000 refundable tax credits per child to pay for things like private school tuition, textbooks, or tutoring. Senate Majority Leader Lori Den Hartog sponsored the bill. She says the $50 million price tag to the state isn't coming out of the public school budget.
We have a constitutional obligation to fund our public education system, and we're not going to shy away from that. That hasn't changed. That's not going to change.
Democratic Senator Ali Rabi says conservatives should oppose the measure, noting it creates a new government program, redistributes wealth, and offers little to no transparency.
And I'm having a hard time understanding why these three arguments don't apply to this bill.
Public testimony on the bill was evenly split, though Boise State's latest statewide survey shows 53% of Idahoans oppose private school subsidies, compared to just 38% who support them. Let's round up some other activity from the State House Wednesday. The Senate State Affairs Committee approved a House bill banning mask mandates for local governments, schools, or health districts. Bill sponsor Republican Senator Brian Lenny says the legislation protects against government overreach and, quote, medical tyranny experienced during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. He called claims of mask efficiency unscientific and a direct assault on bodily autonomy and the 14th Amendment. If the full Senate approves, the bill heads for the governor's desk. The House State Affairs Committee advanced a proposal to restrict the type of flags government entities can fly. It's the first of two flag bills. The second governs flag displays in schools. That bill advanced to the House floor on a party line vote. Earlier this week, the House passed the Medical Defense Act. The Idaho Press reports it would allow medical professionals, institutions, and insurance companies to decline to treat or pay for treatment to which they were personally or religiously opposed to. Press reports bill sponsor, Republican Representative Bruce Skog, said on the House floor that the bill passed committee without opposition, but in fact, two people testified against the legislation before the House Health and Welfare Committee. They claimed the bill was written so broadly it could allow widespread medical discrimination from doctors to receptionists. The bill now goes to the state Senate. Idaho Power says it will move overhead power lines near Hulse Gulch Reserve in the Boise foothills underground to reduce wildfire risk. The utility says construction on the project will begin along North Sunset Peak Road in mid-February and should be done by May. Lines will be moved underground from about Camel's Back Park to below Highland View Drive near the Foothills Learning Center. The 2023-2024 school year was particularly tragic in the Boise School District. 4 students took their own lives, all in the fall semester. 1 year after those deaths, the district says depression rates among students are down, and fewer students have reported having thoughts of suicide. More students say they have a trusted adult to turn to in stressful situations. Those are survey results from this past fall. They were outlined to the District Board of Trustees in a meeting this week. District Counseling Supervisor Jason Shanks told trustees they saw double-digit declines in depression and social isolation statistics, which have been a focus of the district over the past 2 years.
I feel like we can really relate this back to the schools. They have had action plans they've been working off of. They have had individual things they're doing at their schools to specifically target this. So really, these kudos go to the schools that have been working so hard on this.
District staff specifically called out Hope Squads, groups of junior high and high school students at each Boise secondary school, for their efforts in building community, positivity, and engagement from fellow students. Shanks says social isolation rates on the survey of about 5,000 students last fall are still above the national average. The district is working on reinstating some pre-pandemic activities and resources they hope will bring those isolation rates lower. Trustees this week also passed a new policy governing suicide prevention, intervention, and response guidelines for the district. Finally, this morning, the Idaho Department of Lands and U.S. Forest Service are considering a land swap in Valley and Adams counties. It would trade more than 21,000 acres of current Forest Service land near Lake Cascade next to Tamarack Resort and south of New Meadows on either side of Highway 95 to IDL in exchange for about 5,400 acres of what is now state endowment land, including more than 2,200 acres along Payette Lake. Boise Dev reports other state lands in the proposed trade are isolated backcountry acres in the Frank Church River of No Return Wilderness. The disparity in acres in the trade reflects the significant value of the land on Payette Lake, which has an estimated value of more than $4.6 million, according to Boise Dev reporting. Records show IDL officials appear to be trying to move quickly on a deal to beat out any potential new development proposals from commercial companies, but no formal land swap proposal has been submitted. If a deal between the two entities is reached, it would require approval from both the State Land Commission and an act of Congress. Thanks for listening to The Connector, Idaho Daily News. It's a production of Boise State Public Radio. I'm Troy Oppie. Our news director is Sasha Woodruff. Our general manager is Tom Michael. Feedback is always welcome. Send us a note via our free smartphone app. Search Boise State Public Radio in your favorite app store. Or send us a note, Boise State Public Radio at boisestate.edu.
Whether Boise State Public Radio brings a smile to your day, some inspiration, or a greater connection to Idaho and the world, we're proud to be here with you. Federal funding, about $1.60 per person annually, helps keep these trusted services strong and accessible to everyone in our community. Learn how you can safeguard local public media stations like ours by visiting protectmypublicmedia.org.